I have never experienced something like what it's like covering a Caitlin Clark game. It's like going to a concert.
The arena roared, not for a rock god, but for a basketball player. An ESPN voice, seasoned by years of calling high-stakes games, dropped a bombshell that had everyone foaming at the mouth. Ryan Ruocco, the kind of broadcaster who measures words, didn't just praise Caitlin Clark. He said covering her games was like covering a concert. A concert. Think about that for a second. It wasn't hyperbole. It was an admission, an unveiling of a phenomenon that has rewritten the rules of women's basketball. And the haters? They absolutely despise that raw, undeniable energy.
Like covering a Caitlin Clark game.
Like to ask everyone we interview, and this might be a little difficult, but who is your favorite athlete in women's sports and why?
Ooh, I'll just tell you what happens when an active play-by-play broadcaster gets asked something like that. Like even people, if they're like, "Oh, who's your favorite partners to work with?" or whatever, it's like you start thinking about like, how do I not anger people who I have relationships with? So the way I will answer it is this: I have never experienced something like what it's like.
Ruocco's concert analogy wasn't just a throwaway line. It was a profound truth about what Clark has engineered on the court. He wasn't talking about harmonious melodies, but the palpable atmosphere, the electric charge that runs through thousands of people sharing a singular, explosive moment. It's the collective gasp before a deep shot, the roar that follows, the wild uncertainty that hangs in the air when she pulls up from another zip code. This isn't typical basketball talk where analysts dissect statistics and strategies. No, this is theater. This is unpredictability. It's the sheer audacious possibility that she'll unleash something so absurd, so far beyond what most would even attempt, that you can't help but be completely invested. The purists, the ones who cling to traditional metrics, they don't get it. They'll mumble about just three-pointers, as if every shooter in the WNBA casually pulls up from 30 feet, making entire arenas hold their breath. This is different. This is a visceral, emotional experience that transcends the scoreboard, turning every single game into a monumental event.
It's like going to a concert. And the anticipation when she pulls up from 30 feet, the reaction of the crowd, the
Let's also be brutally honest about why this matters so deeply. Women's basketball has pleaded for this level of mainstream traction for decades. Then comes Clark, not just inviting audiences, but dragging them into buildings. She's forcing ESPN to dedicate airtime, making opposing arenas sell out just so fans can unleash their boos in person. Do you even realize the immense power it takes to be so incredibly popular that people willingly pay to hate watch you? That's not just star power, that's wrestling-level superstardom. And Ryan Ruocco, with his unflinching honesty, dared to articulate it out loud. He knew it would sting, but it would have been truly dishonest to say anything less when comparing a standard regular season game to a Clark event. The phenomenon surrounding her transforms every broadcast into an unmissable spectacle.
attention from home, the emotional investment from fans, and a broad stroke of fans is unlike anything I've experienced in the sports that I cover. So covering her games is just a completely unique experience in the best way.
The basketball purity crowd, of course, loathe this. They despise that Clark isn't merely a collection of numbers on a stat sheet. They rage that she's become a cultural touchstone, a lightning rod for attention, a magnet for dollars, and the epicenter of countless arguments. These are the same voices who celebrated when NBA players ascended to global icon status, yet they now want to nitpick Clark into a tiny corner because the spotlight isn't evenly distributed. Here's a tough pill to swallow. That's not how stardom works. Some players are simply different. Some players seize the narrative and make it their own. And Caitlin Clark is undeniably one of them. Think about it. Ruocco, a man immersed in countless athletes across diverse sports and eras, could have named anyone. He didn't hesitate. He chose Clark. And more importantly, he articulated why the feeling around her is utterly unique. When broadcasters, whose livelihoods depend on describing action, go out of their way to spotlight your mere presence, that's not just praise, it's irrefutable validation. Now the chorus of haters will shriek, he's just saying that because ESPN shoves her down our throats. Wrong. ESPN pushes her because she sells. It's the classic chicken and egg
And it would be dishonest for me to say anything other than that if you're just talking about a regular season game to a regular season game, because there's just like a very unique phenomenon, which you guys are well aware of, around her that really makes every broadcast she's involved in feel like this big event that I love.
Let's not overlook the crucial context of her second year. Typically, in their sophomore season, players face a reckoning. Defenses adapt. The league figures them out. The initial hype gently recedes, but Caitlin Clark clearly missed that memo. She remains the story. Still the headline. Still the player broadcasters single out in casual conversation. This doesn't happen by chance. It happens because she's not just maintaining the hype, she's actively fueling it, refining her game, and proving that this is no fleeting flash in the pan. And let's be brutally honest, a significant part of why the haters are absolutely fuming is because Ryan Ruocco is unequivocally right. And they know it. They can't argue with the overflowing crowds, the soaring ratings, or the undeniable financial impact. They can't dispute how Clark's name dominates social media conversations after almost every single game. So what's their desperate recourse? They nitpick. They drone on about turnovers. They obsess over her defense. They cling to any fragment that doesn't align with the superstar narrative they desperately wish wasn't true. Meanwhile, ESPN and a legion of fans simply nod along with Ruocco, affirming yes, she is different. And yes, you can bring up other undeniable titans in the league. Brianna Stewart, Arja Wilson, Sabrina Ionescu, all phenomenal athletes. Absolutely. But not a single one of them has concocted this precise, volatile cocktail of hype, controversy, and explosive energy. And you need all three ingredients to truly explode into mainstream consciousness. Clark has critics churning out think pieces. One of Ruocco's comments also hinted at something profoundly deeper: emotional investment. This is the critical element the haters absolutely refuse to acknowledge, because to be emotionally invested in someone's shot means you are bought into their entire narrative. And Caitlin Clark's story is one of an athlete hyped from her college days who has, against all odds, actually delivered. That is the rarest gem in the entire sporting world. Usually, hype slowly fizzles. With Clark, the hype has done the exact opposite. It has dramatically intensified. We witnessed a similar phenomenon in the men's game. Steph Curry unleashed that same electrifying effect when he started raining threes from distances coaches once deemed bad shots. People collectively lost their minds because it fundamentally altered what basketball looked like. Clark is now orchestrating a version of that same seismic shift within the WNBA. And instead of celebrating this transformative moment, some individuals choose to act as if it's utterly insignificant. But when a seasoned announcer compares your game to a full-blown concert, that, without question, is a very, very big deal. And here's where the delicious sting of sarcasm. Let's delve deeper into the aspect that truly makes people squirm: the monumental ripple effect Caitlin Clark is generating, and why Ryan Ruocco voicing it aloud struck such a profound nerve. You see, the WNBA has yearned for that elusive crossover star, someone who doesn't just pack seats in their home arena, but transforms every arena into the hottest ticket in town. Clark is precisely that, and Ruocco's honest admission, delivered in front of Rebecca Lobo and a national panel, simply confirmed what millions of fans already instinctively knew. She is the show. Now, this doesn't imply that every single player is thrilled by her soaring fame. You can almost feel the side eye in certain interviews, detect the subtle digs in press conferences, and honestly, that's perfectly normal. It's human nature. When one player captures a disproportionate amount of attention, egos are bound to flare. But here lies the profound irony. Without Clark magnetizing record audiences, many of those other talented players wouldn't be landing the bigger broadcast slots either. Consider this. Every single night she steps onto the floor, the atmosphere is irrevocably transformed. People are buzzing with anticipation. Long before tip-off, fans proudly wear her name on their shirts. Even in rival cities, cameras meticulously track her every movement, even when she's simply tying her shoe. That, in its purest, most undiluted form, is celebrity. And for women's sports, which has historically fought tooth and nail for that level of mainstream shine, it represents an undeniable breakthrough moment. Now let's go even further into why the haters are so utterly triggered by Ruocco's plain-spoken words. They've meticulously constructed this flimsy narrative that Clark's fame is solely a product of heavy marketing. But if that were genuinely true, ESPN, with all its vast resources, could have manufactured a dozen Caitlin Clarks by now. They've certainly tried. They've championed other stars in the past. And while those campaigns achieved mild success, not a single one ever struck this profound cultural nerve. Why? Because you simply cannot manufacture authenticity. Clark's explosive Some of the intense backlash also undeniably stems from a palpable jealousy concerning how she is fundamentally reshaping the economics of the game. Ticket prices skyrocket when her team rolls into town. Opposing teams suddenly play in front of sold-out crowds when she visits. This seismic shift directly impacts the entire league's bottom line. But instead of celebrating this unprecedented boon, some players lament that there's too much Caitlin talk. The uncomfortable truth is, it's not too much. It's simply more than they have ever been accustomed to, and that profound adjustment is inherently uncomfortable. Ruocco, in essence, shone a spotlight on that uncomfortable truth. Clark is genuinely special, not just incredibly skilled, not merely productive, but truly undeniably special, and the more he articulates it, the more the haters feel their carefully constructed excuses crumbling. They can no longer hide behind the feeble claim that she's just another player, when all the overwhelming evidence screams otherwise. Here's another crucial piece of this intricate puzzle. Her most fervent haters inadvertently keep her profoundly relevant. Every snide tweet, every bitter post-game comment, every contrarian think piece, they all relentlessly fuel the machine. Ruocco pointing out the concert-like atmosphere didn't just validate her legion of fans, It also starkly exposed critics as stubbornly unwilling to admit the blindingly obvious. The game quite simply feels different because of Clark, full stop. And let's not ignore the powerful generational factor at play. Younger fans see her not just as a star, but as their star. They didn't grow up idolizing Lisa Leslie or Diana Taurasi. Their vibrant introduction to women's basketball was Caitlin Clark, dropping 40-point masterpieces in college, and then seamlessly carrying that unparalleled energy directly into the professional ranks. For them, she is the very embodiment of the WNBA, and that profound generational ownership is an incredibly potent force. It cultivates an unwavering loyalty, and it ensures that momentum continues to surge long after any initial novelty might typically wear off. Now, let's zoom out to the even bigger picture. Clark isn't merely elevating the WNBA. She is profoundly influencing how networks and major sponsors perceive women's sports as a whole. This means more comprehensive coverage, significantly increased investment, and more pervasive mainstream discussions. That's precisely why Ryan Ruocco's words landed with the impact of a sledgehammer, because they confirm that what we are witnessing is not just fleeting hype. It is an undeniable, irreversible shift, and shifts by their very nature make people uncomfortable, especially those who are accustomed to dictating the narrative. It's sarcasm time. The very same people who hysterically scream overrated are the ones who descend into a panic when ESPN dares to run a highlight reel that doesn't prominently feature their personal favorite star. Suddenly, it's bias. No. It's simply the stark reality that Caitlin Clark moves the needle more. Don't like it? Then you move the needle. But that, my friends, is the insurmountable problem. Most simply cannot. And Ruocco declaring that Clark's games feel like concerts only adds further insult to their injury. And here's the undeniable kicker. Clark isn't flawless. She makes mistakes. She endures rough games. She is still growing and evolving as an athlete. But even in those moments, even when she falters, the crowd remains utterly, irrevocably invested. That, precisely, is the profound power Ruocco was highlighting. People care whether she triumphs or whether she stumbles. That, in its purest form, is the very definition of stardom. Nobody shells out hard-earned cash hoping to watch a decent role player have a quiet 12-point night. They buy tickets, they crave the fireworks, and Clark, without fail, delivers them. So, when Ryan Ruocco asserts that she is special, he isn't merely discussing basketball skill. He is profoundly speaking about cultural relevance. He is articulating the impact of a player who possesses the extraordinary ability to make sports feel like an authentic event once more. And that, in its essence, is why the haters are seething with such fury. Because no amount of nitpicking, no deluge of petty criticisms can ever erase the undeniable fact that she is the headline, she is the primary draw, and she is the player that countless kids are desperately imitating on playgrounds across the nation. The unvarnished truth is, Caitlin Clark doesn't need everyone to adore her. She simply needs everyone to watch. And right now, thanks to her electrifying play, and thanks to honest voices like Ruocco articulating what millions of fans already deeply feel, that is precisely what is happening. Ryan Ruocco courageously said the quiet part out loud. Caitlin Clark is far more than just a player. She is a cultural phenomenon. She is an event. That is why her fans worship her, why her haters obsess over her, and why every single one of her games feels monumentally bigger than any mere scoreboard could ever convey. So, what's your take? Are we witnessing genuine history unfolding in real time before our very eyes? Drop your thoughts, hit like, and subscribe for more razor-sharp takes.